Hey everybody, this is Flavio Romeo, and on this episode of the Towncast, we had a chance to go down to Moes Guitars. We had him on the podcast about 2 years ago, but this year we have the video version, so you could see a lot of what he does. It's an amazing store for anyone that's interested in music, and especially any musicians that play the guitar or any kind of stringed instrument. Also, stay tuned to the end, because I happen to grab a video of Mo playing the guitar, and he just rocks. All right, enjoy the episode, everybody. Listen, if you guys have not already heard the Moes Guitar podcast that we had, I guess it was the beginning of the pandemic, right?
Before the pandemic, we opened, and this is our second Christmas, and summer will be our third year.
So, I mean, you couldn't pick worse timing. I mean, when we first started talking, it's like, we're going to open this great store, and then the pandemic hits. But I'm here with Peter Thomas. You guys can know him as Mo, right? Mo. And how long have you had that nickname?
Probably 24 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did that start?
That actually started in the corporate world. I spent 30 years in the financial and selling sector.
Really?
And I would walk into an office in the morning and say, "Hey, good morning, Flavio, how are you?" And I would get a grunt. And I'd walk by another desk and I'd say, "Hey, Mary, good morning, how are you?" I'd get a grunt. So finally I just started walking and going, "Hey, Mo, what's up?"
Really? And then you got a reaction.
People would chuckle. So then when I would be in my office and I would need somebody to volunteer for a project, and let's say there were 38 employees, I would say, "Mo, come to my office." And I would have 38 people in front of me. So we all just started calling each other Mo.
That's hysterical. And it stuck.
It stuck.
That's great.
My wife even calls me Mo.
Everybody calls him Mo.
Yes.
So we're on Lafayette Ave. And this is Van Winkle, right?
Correct.
And Van Winkle, we're right on the corner. It's Moes Guitars, and I have to tell you,
and stringed instrument repairs.
And stringed. All right, so you do other things.
Oh yeah, we repair anything if it has strings and it's made of wood. We repair it.
Really? And I got to tell you, I'm going to show you some of the gorgeous guitars that they have lined up here. I mean, out of all of these guitars that you have here, do you have one favorite?
It's always changing. So right now my current favorite is right next to that center guitar on the top row is a Fender Custom Shop Telecaster. That wood selection is plain. Where most custom instruments you get the flame maple, the bird's eye maple, burl, all these, Brazilian rosewood, all these exotic, gorgeous woods. This one's actually what we would call just a plain Jane, but it has the best tone of any Telecaster I've ever had in 24 years.
Really? Now, this is the one thing that I learned when we first met with Mo, is that he is passionate about tone, which I didn't even get, when he was saying it, but as he was talking about it, and talk a little bit about, like, what is when you say, the perfect tone, how would you explain that?
So it's subjective to each individual based on their ears, but the tone which is perfect to a person generically is the one that moves them emotionally, that can bring you to tears, can put a smile on your face. It's like a violinist. Did you ever hear a violin solo? And
that makes you cry.
Literally, tone.
Wow. Okay. And you.
The tone actually is translated as the musician's soul coming through the instrument.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, because I have a friend Vinny Valentino, and then he's a jazz musician, jazz guitars. And there are times when I hear him play and I hear some of the music that he plays that it's like sounds that you've never heard. It's amazing the kind of sounds you can get from an electric guitar.
Here's a funny thing, and one of the things that sets us apart from probably the majority of retailers or repair shops. Anything that comes through here to be sold, I play. And if I don't like it, I don't take it. I probably reject more trade-ins than I accept. I'm not interested in the poorly constructed intermediate or low budget Amazon instruments.
Right.
And it doesn't mean when the young kid walks in, I don't fix them and work on them. But I don't stock them.
Yeah.
This business actually, although it's profitable, and as a business you need profit, isn't about profit. This business is about paying the gift forward with love. And every day when we come here, we open that door with the intention of making someone's day better than it was.
Right. I see that's so rare. I mean, you're not going to get that from the big box stores. You can go online, like you said, you can go on Amazon, you can go on Walmart.com, you can go on all these .coms and, select a guitar or buy whatever it is you're buying, but you don't have that personal connection and you don't have that desire and that look. Like you said, you tell me a story, you have that 7-year-old that comes in and, he's crushed because his guitar broke.
Yes, Joe.
Yeah. And, to be able to sit him down and reassure him that it's going to be okay. We're going to get it back up. And you did.
Yeah.
And you got it up. And what did he say?
He actually said to me, Mr. Moe, let me give you $75. And I said, nah, Joe, it's free. He's like, no, I give you $75. Mom, give him $75.
So his 7-year-old is saying he's going to pay you $75 as long as mom can write the check.
Yes. I go, no, it's free. It's free. So there's a lot of things that, I consider myself to be a capitalist with a socialist heart, which makes me a philanthropist. And let's face it, this economy is difficult for everybody. Yeah. There was no Christmas season. We actually lost 50% revenue during October, November,
really?
December.
Of this past year?
Yeah. But we're still good. I have no overhead. And we discussed this on the first podcast. Everything in here, my wife and I own. It's not bank owned.
Right. So you didn't take out a loan to buy all these
guitars.
You own all these guitars.
Part of my collection.
That is so cool.
So low overhead, great customer service, and just pay it forward with love. Put a smile on someone's face and they refer people and they come back. And my biggest problem right now is we just completed our third expansion. I'm ready for the fourth.
Really?
But I'm holding off because the times economically are unstable. But my biggest problem is, as a small business in Hawthorne, I'm busting at the seams.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know what? And like you said, you're paying it forward.
Yes.
And you're rewarded for that.
Correct.
Because it's not like, well, I'm going to do this thinking that they may come back and give me that. No,
Correct.
You're just doing it because it's a pure heart.
Yes, and the funny thing about that too, like that whole Pompton Lakes, Riverdale, Wayne, Pequannock, we've had that market from before I opened the store. Fairlawn.
How did you have that? Were you doing stuff at home?
Well, I was doing some repairs by appointment out of my home. But now, over the past 2.5 years, what I'm seeing more of, and I also had Hudson Valley, Manhattan, and Brooklyn, but now what I'm getting is Cresskill, Demrest, Teaneck, Tenafly.
And you think that's word of
Rivervale.
mouth?
Oh yeah, because they come in and say, I saw you online. I called a friend of mine. He says he's been to Moes 3 times, raves about your work. It's worth sitting in traffic on Route 4 to get here.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, this is I've met very few people that have a passion for what they do like Mo. I mean, you really do. you really have a passion for it. It's
Oh,
not like I got to make money. It's
I've been eating, sleeping, and breathing guitars since the age of 6.
I was going to ask. So tell me your history. Like, how
Okay.
did you get started in guitar?
Big Italian family.
Okay.
So
everybody's a singer.
exactly. So on my
Everybody's an
mother's
entertainer.
side, my dad was Polish, my mom Italian, which makes me, I think, a Polwop. How's that for some unpolitically correct humor? Anyway, on my mom's side, 8 brothers and sisters. Everybody played something: violin, piano, keyboard,
Really?
cello, drums, guitar, spoons, everything, even a sax player.
Really? So what was so? Like,
So on the
family
weekend,
reunions.
yes, well, we all lived relatively close.
Where'd you grow up?
Staten Island.
Okay.
So we had an aunt that lived across the street. We had
I didn't know there were Italians on Staten Island.
well, yeah, it's when I grew up on Staten Island, it was
It's like a little Sicily.
It was yes, it was all Italian and Jewish.
So you got together on the weekends.
So we would get together. My grandfather would make homemade wine.
Okay.
And then usually Saturday night, everybody would gravitate to my mom's house, which was the smallest house in the family. But I think my mom, out of all the brothers and sisters, probably had the best heart.
Okay.
Was always baking homemade bread, homemade pizza, homemade pasta. So homemade wine from my grandfather. So the food was there, the wine was there, and they would play rummy. 500 rummy, was it?
Yeah.
All night. And my uncles would play music. But
That's awesome.
the girls also played. My aunts all played keyboards or something too. So back then, everybody smoked. The house would be filled with smoke,
It was
right?
like a fog machine.
Right, the windows would be open to get the heat from the oven out of the house with a fan in the window. Everybody would be in the living room jamming up a storm or playing cards in the kitchen and dining
You
room.
grew up with all that.
So it was just expected at the age of 6. They would give you an instrument,
Right.
play it, and you would learn to play.
Wow. So did you learn from your relatives?
Yes, I initially got my introduction from my uncle, who was a theater organist. Actually, still
wow.
is. He's still alive. Was a great theater organist. So he taught me.
Now, when
the
you're saying
basics.
theater organist, you're saying
Radio City, in and out of the actual wall.
right.
You
That's
know,
awesome.
skating rinks
Wow.
as a kid. He would
Yeah,
play
yeah,
skating
yeah.
rinks when they had
Yeah,
the big
sure.
theater organ. So he taught me the basics. Then my dad, before he passed away, used to take my brother and I to a guitar studio in Newdorp on Staten Island,
Okay.
Richard's Music Studio. And he was real stern. He was one of these guys who would walk in a circle with his hands behind the back with like a yardstick.
Yeah.
And if you missed the note, you'd get a whack.
Yeah.
The good old days when you could hit kids. And he was monumental in influencing me. I realized early on, if I wanted to do this, I couldn't just wing it. There was a certain amount of guidance and discipline,
Yeah.
like being in school, because I had my experience with Catholic school teachers and the yardstick also.
Oh, yeah.
So, I drew the correlation.
Yeah.
But I knew it was good long term. And that's where it started. Then later on in life, turned out my neighbor was Chuck Wayne, who was George Shearing's guitarist,
Oh,
Woody
wow.
Herman's guitarist, Johnny Carson's show first string guitarist.
Wow.
And
That was your neighbor?
yeah, I actually studied jazz guitar with him. And
Really?
he wrote my recommendation to Berklee College of Music.
Wow. So that's where you ended up going to school?
No, I didn't attend.
Okay.
I didn't attend, but I could have.
Yeah. Wow. So you've been playing since then, and how over the years did you start accumulating like these guitars? Is a certain attraction to them? The
Yeah,
look, the
well,
sound.
As a kid, and before we started doing this,
Because I feel like you have a bachelor's of guitar.
Yes,
Like a
yes.
master's of guitars.
so I've always been a tinkerer. And as a little kid, I'm talking as early as 3.5, 4 years old, I would watch my dad. Homes then had, like today, a lot of them still do. If you're handy, have a workshop.
Right.
So my dad was always in the workshop, and he would have the real hammer, I'd have the little hammer.
Yeah.
He'd hammer a nail, I'd bang a piece of wood. So I was always tinkering and handy through working with my dad. Then when I started going to school, I just started picking up stuff randomly on the way home, as strange as this sounds. I'd be walking home from school and I'd see a TV. Back then they were tubes.
Yeah, sure.
And I'd take the TV home with me.
They were easy to repair then.
And I'd take the tubes and I'd save them. I still have some. I mean, these tubes are worth $400, $500, $600 today each.
Wow.
Tube radios, take them home. But then I started finding guitars and amplifiers in the garbage too. And to this day, people in this town come in here and go, "Do you buy guitars?" And I say, "Yes, we try to sell them, but I buy them too." And they go, "Would you want to buy this?" And I'd say, "Nah, not something I have the clientele for." Right. And they just give it to me.
Oh, really?
And usually they're in really, really bad shape. So what we do is we then take our time, our talents, and our money, and we repair them. I give them away to kids in town as they come in.
Wow. So again, it's that pay for.
Yeah. I mean, I have the parts, probably parts that will never get used on high-end instruments.
Right.
And I have the time, and quite honestly, I love what I do.
I was going to say, there's a joy.
I don't work a day in my life. So I'll come in on a Sunday, or my wife will, and she'll rebuild the whole instrument and go, "Here it is, give it to someone."
Yeah, wow. That's amazing. And I know that you've expanded. You've got a workshop in the back, so we are going to take a look at that, right? You're going to give us some.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we're going to take a look at that. But do you also repair? Because I see some amps here. Do you also do amp repair?
No, we don't. I do my own amp repair, and honestly, if there's anybody out there that's a retired electrical engineer that can read a schematic, I would love to talk to you. The reason we haven't gotten into amplifier repair right now is there's still a lack of quality control on electrical components from the pandemic. 50% of all electrical components that I order that come through that door are defective out of the box.
Really? And it's all because just shoddy work.
Yep.
Because of the pandemic.
A lot of people haven't went back to work.
Yeah.
There's some states, in New Jersey is one of them, that pays people more than what they were probably making on the job. So until their compensation runs out, it's difficult to get them back in the workforce.
Yeah. It's. I mean, that's been a problem with a lot of different categories. It's just because then all of a sudden you have such a high demand that people are manufacturing so quickly that they're taking the quality out of it just to get the product
Well,
out.
a lot of it too is a lot of these businesses, though they're small, the bigger ones are potentially undercapitalized due to the default rate of defective material. So by shipping bad merchandise, they're only grabbing cash.
Right.
To keep them running, knowing they got to deal with this problem a week or two down the road, but by that point they have someone else's
They moved on
cash.
somewhere else. Yeah. It's almost like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, it's a tough world to do business in still presently.
So they do repairs. They sell guitars. I mean, there's got to be, since you own all these, have you sold guitars where you're like, oh, it's one of my favorites? Have you it's like taking a limb, right?
I have a bunch of them up here.
Oh,
a bunch of body parts missing.
It has to be. I mean, there's such a.
You know what? There's two instruments I just got from a dealer who's in a tough spot financially because he has a massive floor plan. And the way I get these instruments that are low production and high-end collectible Gibson, Fender, Martin, custom-made boutique guitars When I need inventory, I send out an email. And I have a book of dealers that go to the other side of the Baltic Sea, 200 deep.
Wow.
And basically the email says, who needs cash? Mo has cash. You have guitars. Let's do some business. And those guys that need cash flow all respond.
Yeah, sure.
And
do you get some gems out of those?
I got two right in front of this display case that are both G&L custom ordered guitars. Both of them were $2,500 when they were ordered in 2000.
Wow, $2,500.
Today, if you were to order that guitar, it would probably be close to $4,500, $5,000. But those are instruments that one of them I'm selling for $1,600. The guitar's worth much more, but the dealer needed cash. I bought it below market value, so again, I'm paying the savings forward.
Right. You're not saying I bought it for this much, but I'm going to make $4,500.
Yes, the guy who walks in and buys that instrument is going to go, and I see it all the time. They go, "Why is this so cheap? It's $1,000
What's
below
wrong with
market
it?
value." I go,
Really?
there's nothing wrong with it. And they'll go, "But why?" I'll go, "Well, when you're a little store in the middle of Hawthorne and you're competing against the world, you have to do something unique. So I source the best that can be gotten. I'll put my guitars against any world-renowned dealer. And I'm less.
Yeah. Yeah, see, and it's...
And we give free service for the lifetime of ownership.
Oh, so talk about that.
Whether you buy a guitar from me for $99 or $9,000, I give you 2 free setups a year for the lifetime of ownership. And our setups are extensive. I mean, we actually start at the top of the guitar, go right to the bottom. So I'll have people call and say, "How much is a setup?" And I'll say $98.50. And they'll say, "Gee, the other guy's $65." I said, "I know, but you're not asking the right question. You need to ask, what do I do for $98 versus what he does for $65?
Yeah.
So the customer often will say, "Well, he's going to adjust my neck, set my action." I'll say, "That's good. We're going to do that too, but we're also going to tighten your tuners. We're going to check the break angle of your nut, which is where tuning instability stems from. We're going to clean the grooves of your nut. We're going to oil your fretboard, polish your fret wire, restring your guitar, adjust your neck, set your action, radius your bridge, calibrate your electronics, clean your electronics, tighten your strap buttons, then my wife's going to clean your guitar."
Wow.
And they go, "I didn't know there was that much that could be done to an instrument."
Yeah, because they look at it, it's like it's strings, it's a couple little tuners up top and things on the bottom.
It's all geometry. I mean, actually, we work in millimeters, and my luthier map works in 64ths of an inch.
Wow. Really?
He actually runs around the shop measuring rulers.
Because they're not always accurate.
No 2 rulers are identical.
Yeah.
And
it all depends on where it starts, right?
Digital calipers, throw them out the window.
Really? Same.
Yeah, if you're not spending $700-800 for a pair of digital calipers, they're junk.
All right, so I think you guys get the same impression I have, that I've had for the last several years, that Mo has a passion for, not only a passion for guitars, a passion for repair and a passion for his work, but also a passion for the people that walk through the door.
Yes, music and people. Music brings people together.
Yeah. Well, and you got that at an early age.
The fact of the matter is we're supposed to love each other and help each other, not hate each other.
Right.
And I do a lot with posting on social media, and really I scroll through it and I can't believe the language and hatred that adults, that are parents who are teaching their children to be better citizens, are doing the same thing that they're teaching their children not to do.
Right.
And I go, this is insane.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
So when you're walking through that door, you're getting peace, you're getting love, and you're getting some amazing product and amazing repair work. So anything, you guys repair anything with strings?
Anything with strings.
Violin, cello.
We've done
mandolin.
sitars, acoustic guitars, electric guitars, dobros, mandolins. We just restored a set of turn-of-the-century banjos.
Really?
Yeah.
Turn of the century?
Yep.
Not
I have
not 2000.
No.
1900.
Yeah, 1905, 1910. I have a mandolin up there from 1910. It's a Gibson. So, and this town, Hawthorne, treasures.
All right, as usual, the GoPro battery ran out, so I had to have a quick break to change the battery. But we were talking about all the different instruments that you work with. Now, have you had? Tell me some of the clients. Like, you've had some pretty famous people walk through the door,
Yeah.
or at least contact you on the phone, on your website.
Yes. Well, let's just recap that last question about the instruments we work on, and we'll kind of go into the more famous players. This town has a treasure of vintage collectible instruments. I have so many clients, 70, 80 years old,
Really?
that still own their original Gibsons and Fenders from the 50s that they bought when they were kids mowing lawns. These guitars, some of them go up into the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
What is there? Like, what is the most expensive? Is there one, or is
yeah, well, so probably the most visible, highly recognized instrument for rarity and collectability is the Gibson 59 Les Paul Standard. 59 is the year that the general consensus is all the pieces came together to reach a state of perfection.
So it was all the perfect pieces came together to make the perfect guitar.
But now there were only, I think, like 636 of them that were made, and out of that 600 and change, about 50% have been accounted for.
Really? So they're still out there?
There's a large portion of them that have probably been thrown out or destroyed.
Right.
But segueing into your question or about the more famous people, we have two clients that worked with Al Meola, one in the form of a producer, one in the form as an engineer.
And Al Meola, probably one of the best guitarists
my
in
hero,
the world.
My hero. Super nice guy, amazing guitar player. And to work with him up close and personal, I mean, is just a dream come true.
Yeah.
But one of the jobs I agreed to work with Al on was to authenticate his 59 Gibson Les Paul.
He had one.
He has one.
Exactly
Yes,
what you just
that
said.
he's been using all the way since from 1977.
He still plays it.
Yes, but through the years, it's been refinished. Parts have been changed. There was some speculation as to whether the guitar was original, a counterfeit, or a replica. And quite honestly, some people with big reputations and equally big mouths put a lot of bad press out on social media about this instrument.
Really?
So when we met Al, he had asked me, could I authenticate it? And I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure that me and Matt, my luthier, can. So here's the funny thing. We're at his studio in Old Japan. He gives me the guitar. All Al knows about me at this point is a phone number and a guy named Mo. And he gives me
He gives you
a
arguably
$350,000 guitar to walk out of the studio with, which I had for 6 months.
Wow. $350,000 guitar.
So on that wall, there's a notarized letter which I just sent to Al. After I did the authentication, he took the guitar to Gibson, where Caesar, the acting president, had his team of experts examine my work. and they confirmed my authentication that Al's Guitar is indeed the real deal 59 Les Paul Standard.
So he must have been, that must have bonded you guys for life.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling, yes.
Wow.
Happily so.
300 and you know,
and honestly, I mean, we're discussing with him now whether we restore it back to its original condition, but I think in the correct economic time, with his whole collection, that guitar could potentially reach well above 700,000.
And you know, it's one of those things that when you have it, it's sitting, you know, in the, let's say it's a 59, right? So 63, 64, 66, no one's playing it. It's collecting dust. Strings are broken. It's like, just to get rid of the stupid thing. Nobody's playing it. Get rid of it. So you don't realize.
I had a woman walk in that door on a Saturday with a guitar from Hawthorne, two sisters, twins, sweet people. And she says to me, if you tell me what's in this case is garbage, I'm throwing it out. And I said to her, well, from here, I don't know what's in the case, but I could tell you this. The case at a minimum is worth 500 to 1,000.
What was the
It's
case?
a 1950s Gibson ES 175 case. So I
So
said,
you can only imagine what's inside.
so I said, let's open it. So she opens it, and it's a 56 ES 175 that belonged to her dad. And the guitar needed about $1,300 worth of work. But you're looking at then, it's a $7,000 guitar.
Right.
But what made this even more interesting was under the guitar she had two maps. And it turns out her dad was a World War II vet that was in the Normandy invasion.
And there were maps of.
And back then you couldn't take invasion maps home. It was contraband, but he smuggled them home.
Wow.
And on the back of the map, he had the name and date of every soldier that enlisted, when they left or perished. And they were signed by Eisenhower, Patton, and MacArthur.
No.
So I called.
Throw the guitar away. Let's keep the maps.
I called a friend of mine at Heritage Auction, and he said, Pete, tell them if they want to sell them. I'm guessing low 30,000 a map. So she had two maps worth 60 grand and a guitar worth 7, and she was going to throw them out. So we restore the guitar. Now the economy starts to turn. And there were some medical problems in the family. So I said, how about we put it on consignment? And a very good client who became a very good friend of mine, Tony Latosa, came and played it. And he's like, 7? Do you think she'd do 6? I'm like, let's just call her. So the woman goes, I'll tell you what, I'll consider reducing the price, but he's got to prove to me he can play it. I'm coming up and he has to play a concert.
Really?
So we're all sitting here and Tony's sitting
fun
there
is that?
playing jazz, and she goes, I'll do it.
It's yours.
I'll do it.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, what great moments. That
Then
is
we
so
had
awesome.
George Lynch. Who's he from?
Dockin.
Dockin. I say Duncan. Dockin. George Lynch was in, actually bought a vintage Gibson from me. Brad Whitford was in the store. We have Hanan Ramiro, flamenco guitarist,
Yeah, I remember
tremendous
that.
guy. We're still servicing Al. Actually, I just brokered a deal with Mad Professor Amplification for Al Meola to endorse them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep, and Matt does all his work.
So listen, you can buy your guitars, you can bring them in, he'll appraise, he'll show you what's wrong with it, what needs to be fixed, and he's gonna fix it. Not only,
And you might get something for free.
and you might get something for free. Exactly. So you're gonna take us through the
Yes,
shop. All right.
absolutely.
He's gonna take us through the shop. Let's go. All right, so we're walking to the inner sanctum of Moes Guitars.
Building number 2, we didn't have this 2.5 years ago.
So you just expanded
Yes.
to enlarge your workshop.
Yes, we took over, I think the address is 81 Van Winkle, which is
Okay.
attached to 726 Lafayette, but it gave us another 700 square feet, and actually I'm ready to take over the building next to me.
To expand even more.
We have a fifth expansion, but at this point I'm being cautious due to the economy.
Yeah, I don't blame
But
you.
there's more to come.
This is awesome. So this is it. This is the inner sanctum.
Yeah, matter of fact, where's our luthier, Matt? Here he is. So
he's a professional. You're a professional luthier.
Matt
Yes.
Hayden, professional luthier, 14 years.
Yeah, I started when I was
And
13.
I will say
Did you
this,
really?
Yeah, I'm 28.
honestly,
I just
one of the
love what I
best
do.
in the country. Actually, he does all Al's work.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So how did it feel like knowing that you're working on Al Di Meola's guitar?
It was kind of surreal. I've always listened to him through the years.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I collect a lot of vinyl records, so I always had, Al, Di Meola records.
Yeah.
And he's a really cool like hangout guy too. And basically, Mo and I have some mutual customers, and basically they were working with him, and they referred them to Mo and to us, And over time, we finally met with Al, and he gave me a bunch of stuff to repair, and it was just like kind of blew my mind, And then Al gives us all like, we go to some of his shows whenever he's in town, and like he was so nice. Like he signed my original Elegant Gypsy pressing.
Oh, you had this.
Yeah, I already had it.
It must have been like, where did you get this?
Yeah, it was so cool, and I have a picture too of this record next to that exact guitar that's in his studio.
Really?
Too. Yeah, it was just so cool, and yeah, he's really personable, and like whenever Mo and I are there, we're there for like 6 hours.
Yeah, I'm
Just,
sure.
like, talking back and forth. And
So show us what are some of the things you're working on now?
so I just basically got done with this. It just needs strings. This is an all original 1956, right, Mo? 56, I think.
Yes, 56.
Les Paul Jr.
It's a 56 Les
Original
Paul.
56
Yeah.
is one of the cleanest ones you're ever going to see.
Yeah, it's a pretty good example. The mahogany on it is even figured in
Wow.
the back. Let me see if I could just turn on my lights real quick, kind of see like the figuring in the mahogany there. And basically, this was a student guitar back in the day. This was like pretty much the lowest in the Gibson range. And Gibson's, super high quality guitar. You have Honduran mahogany, Brazilian rosewood. This type of rosewood is pretty much extinct nowadays too. Like you can't even really get
Highly
this.
endangered.
It's extremely
Really? Is that
limited.
right?
It's extremely limited. And basically over the years, a lot of famous people use them. You have like Leslie West from Mountain. You have a bunch of guys. And even though this was like a student guitar, they're usually
loved
pretty
it.
screaming. So like, it got this like huge following over the years. Now what was once a typical off the shelf student guitar from Gibson, this is worth about $10,000 now.
That's amazing. And and
It's
a lot of
amazing.
people, hey, for you guys that are listening or watching, go through your attic, go through your basement, talk to your relatives,
yeah.
because it's these priceless things that were shelved.
Exactly, like your grandfather's old guitar. Not only does it have provenance in your family, he probably for example got that back then, maybe put it away over the years.
Yeah.
And just like with any sort of like antique, some stuff gains value, some stuff doesn't, but like a lot of this stuff, it holds value and becomes collectible.
I feel
over
like
the years.
almost anything that has the Les Paul name on it.
Exactly.
This
that's it.
instrument today, conservatively $9,000, but if you look at that one that Matt's working on, that's a 61 Fender Stratocaster. If you have one of those, even in that condition, in your attic, you're sitting on about 35,000.
35,000. What year is it?
61.
61.
And what makes one year over the other? What brings that value up so high?
So basically, it has to do with the appointments of the instrument, and honestly, like the history of it with who played them. A lot of guys, we're talking guys like Jimi Hendrix played one of these.
Wow.
Like Eric Clapton. A lot of this
61
of guitar. Like anybody, and Stratocaster. It's one of the most revered guitars in the entire guitar world. And this is an original from the factory. It's an old refinish. It wouldn't have been this color. We think it was Lake Placid blue, but there's several different colors in here, so it's kind of hard to debate it.
Oh,
And-
as you're peeling the
Yeah.
colors back.
Yes, but a
Well,
lot
we're not
of
peeling it
times
back.
what Fender also did was they'll use a totally different color that contrasts the top
Right.
below it for depth. So it's possible to have a sunburst finish below white, or blue finish, or black finish below white.
So this is like a master repair. I mean, this is...
Yeah, basically he's had this guitar since the 80s, and like it was heavily modified from the 80s, and like over the years he had a couple different guys work on this, and he was never really quite satisfied with it. And over the years, him and I became, quite good friends, and I bought a couple vintage amps from him. And he knows I restore this stuff, and like he finally wanted like to really do like the full like meal deal,
legit.
put everything
Give
back
me
together.
really,
give me.
He wanted it back to the original form,
as close as we can possibly get it.
Wow!
So,
and are you able to get all of the components from the original?
If you're willing to pay.
Yeah, it's
right. It's all there. It's all there. Yeah.
He basically just wanted it. He wants to keep like the replacement bridge and a couple things, but like basically what he needed was new frets into the neck. I planed this to all be, a flat plane again. It was quite warped, to be honest, but that's all good now. I'm currently rewinding his original pickups. These are not the original pickups, so we're going to put the original type of electronic back in here as well. Going to rewire the whole thing. And yeah, it's just, breathing new life into something that, it's been near and dear to him,
And I could tell just talking to you that this is not work for you.
It's a labor of love.
This is love.
Yeah,
I could tell.
Yeah,
I could tell.
Yeah.
Now I notice here also. I see like this is like what's happening here.
Okay. So we can get into these. So I've been doing woodworking ever since I was a little kid. My grandfather thought it was a good idea to hand the 5-year-old a saw and go to town.
Yeah, there you go. Still cut the house down.
Still got my fingers, so thankfully that's good. So I used to build a lot of furniture and stuff like that over the years. I took shop all throughout high school, and it was cool too because like my shop teacher saw that I knew what I was doing.
Right.
And so I would help him teach the class. And
at what age?
Oh, I was well, I've been doing woodworking itself since I was very, very young.
Right.
But I started building furniture more or less into my early teens.
So here you are in high school, and you're teaching the. Listen, you go ahead. I'm gonna go get a coffee. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. That would you would pull me out of class to build sets for plays. It was awesome.
Really,
how
fun!
It was like, I don't want to do trigonometry today. I want to build
I'm gonna build
something.
A stage.
Wow. Exactly.
So you're literally building guitars. So this is your luthier. Experience.
Yeah. Basically, I'm really into a lot of semi-hollow construction, and I took a lot of different ideas and different designs, and kind of made my own thing from it.
Is that here too?
Yeah. So the Dan Electro I just bought from Mo, but this here, that's my latest design. And basically, it's not your average type of.
It's kind of cool. I'm going to do it through the smoke from the humidifier, so it gives it a little.
And like
mystique.
It's not your average type of build. So like a lot of semi-hollow construction, you only have a partial like hollowing here and maybe over here, sometimes back there. But like I really like to make these, as open as possible.
Yeah.
So my hollowing, I do it from here through here, then up this way, and sometimes I go through the pickups as well.
And you get a different sound when it's hollowed out.
Yeah, if I open, like...
Yeah.
It really opens up the acoustic property of the instrument.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Look at that.
I'm still working on that.
That's a proto.
It's very rough at the moment. But yeah, it goes through several different custom templates that I made, and they all, get sort of that treatment. And not only does it lighten up the wood itself, so it becomes a lighter instrument, but also it gives it a different type of
cool different tone.
Yeah, it's a whole different sound. I think it increases the resonance of it. And besides all like the woodworking, like this is all highly high quality woods. This is 4A flame maple. I have Honduran mahogany on the back. It's a 4A flame maple neck, ebony fretboard, pearl inlay. And my mother's an artist, and she helps me come up with some of these like designs. Like her and I designed the shape of the headstock together.
I like that.
And we're currently working on some stuff to like implement her artwork in some of these. So she's
cool.
doing like floral motifs and whatnot that we're gonna put on these. And yeah, it's just like to be able to create something and have somebody have full enjoyment out of something that you put into the world. Is a wonderful feeling.
Well, hopefully when you have one of these that's finished, you can hand it to Al and say, Al, do me a favor.
I'm not sure if I was going to play
just see how this sounds.
I just made several different shapes. This is almost my flagship, I guess you could say. The next one's going to have a carved top.
That's gorgeous.
But yeah, I inlaid herringbone all the way around it. I'm a huge
beautiful.
Martin fan. Again, 4A flame maple top, figured mahogany back.
Gorgeous.
You know, and Mo likes Firebirds a lot.
Yes.
So I made my own version.
That's great.
You know, again, 4-leaf, big leaf, flame maple. This is black walnut. And no one really does semi-hollow Firebirds, so I was like, I'm gonna be that guy.
Well, listen. I mean, if people are if you're looking to repair your guitar, you're looking to buy a new guitar, you're looking to have one custom built for you, you can get it all done at Moes Guitars. Obviously, you know, you've got a passion for what you're doing, and certainly you've heard you got a passion for what Mo's doing, and I love the fact that you do pay it forward. That it's not all about the money. It's about you take extreme pride in your work and love for your work, and you love to see people enjoy that.
Yes, and you know what? I love to see the people that are dedicated, loyal, and work with us succeed too. And Matt and I have been working together 6 years, going on 7 probably.
Wow.
And Matt worked for a shop that I used to farm work out too. Then one day the guy just stopped returning my calls. And I was like, gee, that's strange. You're in business. How could you not want my money? You know. So I actually called Matt and I asked him what he was doing. And he said, you know, I'm working in my own shop, doing my own thing. I said, well, how about I farm you out work? So he would come by and I would give him the heavier jobs that were too time consuming because I'm in the showroom.
Sure.
And my wife's in the shop. So then you know, life happens and things turned unfortunate with where he had his shop. So I said, you know what, why don't you just move your shop into my building? You
Nice.
could work here, you could work for me, and then, you know, you have your shop, you could do your work after hours or on days you're off.
Yeah, exactly.
And long term, our plan is actually, if not in this business, another one to make Matt a partner.
Nice.
So just keep paying it forward.
Yeah. Well, Matt, thank you so much for showing us.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
Showing
Anytime
us
you guys
some
want
of
to
your
stop by.
handy artwork. I mean, this is.
Thank you. It's almost done. It's going to be put on. It's going to be in our showroom soon.
That's awesome. Well, listen, come down to Moes Guitars, Hawthorne, New Jersey, on Lafayette and Van Winkle. You could Google it; you'll find it. Come down, check out Matt's new designs. Come out and check out Moes Pride and Joy. I mean, it's a whole wall of love.
I'm literally living the dream.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much again
Thank
for
you.
opening it up and showing us what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Be well, everybody.